What is going on, everyone? Hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to be covering a couple of news stories in the world of tech and PC gaming. But first, to address the elephant in the room, I am not going to be on camera today. Just going to be sharing some multiplayer footage from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, which is available now, and it actually has a benchmark. Who knew? They finally added a benchmark to a Call of Duty game. But today's topics will be covering the AMD RX 7900, and when we could see its potential release date. We've got a new leak concerning that from Greymon55 over on Twitter. Also, the RTX 4080 12GB, the card that was unlaunched by NVIDIA, but will likely be a card at some point, whether it will be, rebranded as a 4070 Ti or a 4070 or whatever. We've got some leaked benchmarks for that on Firestrike, as well as the new Speedway, a few 3D Mark benchmarks essentially, so we can kind of see how that stacks up to the 4090. As well as the 3090 Ti. Spoiler alert, it's slower than a 3090 Ti. Also, Uncharted got its first patch on the PC, fixing the mouse input issues. Thankfully, they handled that one quickly. Glad we got it done. So, let's get fired into the news. But first, today's video is brought to you by SuperCDK.com, where you could save money on games for all of your favorite platforms, as well as software like Windows 10 Pro licenses for just $22, and then you can unlock the prestigious Dark Mode for Windows 10, which I honestly could not live without. It is blinding without the dark mode. You guys need it in your life. And now you can also save an additional 25% off at checkout by clicking Buy Now on any software products over there. Just go ahead and add it into your cart and put in my code JP25 at checkout and apply, and that'll bring our price from $22.44 all the way down to $16.83, a savings of over $5. And I'll walk you through how to get your key and install it on Windows 10. Go ahead and click Submit Order and complete your checkout from there. For me, that's going to be with PayPal, and then click on Pay Now. After completing the checkout, it'll bring you to your purchased order page, and it will update in a matter of seconds, or just go ahead and hit F5. Go ahead and do that one time. It came through literally immediately. I got the payment email that it had gone through and the delivery of the product exactly at the same time. Once you're done with that, go ahead and click on View Keys and Codes, and we'll get our code right here that we can go ahead and copy and paste in on Windows 10 by hitting the Start button and type in the word Activate. When you see that activation settings or see if Windows is activated, go ahead and click on that, and it'll bring up this right here, and click on Change Your Product Key or Unlock Windows 10. As I already have Windows 10, I obviously don't need to put in a new key, but just paste it in and then go ahead and click Next, and you are all done and set. For more information on SuperCDK.com as well as the coupon code, be sure to check out the links down in the description below. So first up, AMD's RX 7000 series of graphics cards, which so far have not gotten an official release date or anything like that, but it had been rumored to be releasing on November 27th. But now, according to Greymon55, who is a longtime leaker, pretty good track record in the past, sort of like Copite 7, says that now it should be sometime between December 1st and 5th. So not in a delay or anything, but it seems like the release date was pushed back, or maybe some of the information before was faulty. I wouldn't call it a delay or anything, as AMD themselves have not officially even announced a date, so it's kind of hard to call it a delay without actually knowing for sure if they were going to release these cards on November 27th, as it was previously rumored. Make no mistake about it, though, AMD has been quite vocal about an event next week where they should be showing off these graphics cards. Very likely, that's currently the rumor and the word on the street, so definitely be on the lookout for that next week, as you may be seeing some of those stuff. And I also may coincidentally be in Las Vegas at the same exact time as this is allegedly happening. I don't know why those would coincide with one another, but there it is. Next up, the RTX 4080 Unlaunched Edition. That's right, the 12GB version, which they pulled off the market, or not off the market, but pulled from the release schedule after a lot of feedback about the pricing and the naming sort of like being misleading, having two RTX 4080 models. So the 12GB one has been pulled for now, although I'm sure we're going to see it again at some point. It's just going to be called something different. I don't know why they just didn't make the 12GB version the RTX 4080 and then have the 16GB version be the 4080 Ti. I thought that would have just been easy right from the start, but now it seems like they're going to be keeping that 4080, and this will become a 4070 or 4070 Ti, and then we'll probably also see a 4080 Ti at some point, as there's a pretty large gap in the CUDA core count and RT core count and all that stuff between 4080 16 gig and the RTX 4090, there's about a 6,000 CUDA core gap there. So definitely a lot of room for them to slot in a 4080 Ti a year from now or so, like they usually tend to do. So over on Chip Hell, someone already got their hands on this 12 gigabyte RTX 4080 and ran some tests on 3D Mark in the new Speedway benchmark, which includes ray tracing, Firestrike Ultra, as well as Firestrike Extreme, and you can see the scores right there on your screen. And if that's not really meaning a whole lot to you, that's for me as well. I don't know what cards usually run off the top of my head, but thankfully videocards.com went ahead and compiled some rough data on graphic scores for some other competitor cards, like in the region of what a 4080 12 gigabyte would be, including the new RTX 4090. So we'll start off with that new Speedway benchmark. As you can see, the 4090 pulls in around 9980. I think I got mine over 10,000 when I was overclocking, if I remember correctly. But the 4080 gets at 5,382, which is expected to be a lot slower than the 4090 for sure. But it's actually slower than the 3090 Ti, which was one of their big marketing things, was that it was going to be faster than 3090 Ti and cost $899, which was being heralded as like a big bargain, which it really isn't, especially since you could find 3090 Ti's for under $1,000 now. So, yeah, that's a thing. So in Speedway, it is losing to the 3090 Ti. We've also got Firestrike Ultra, which has in here applied as well another leaked benchmark for the 4080 16 gigabyte that happened a couple of weeks ago, where that pulled in 17,465, and the 4080 was 13,472. The 3090 Ti once again here, edging it out by about 600 points or so over the 4080. So not as big a gap as with the Speedway benchmark, which doesn't score as high in general. So it seems like it's not. It seems like it's closer than it is, but yeah. 3D Mark Time Spy Extreme. We also have that test here with the 4090 getting almost 20,000 on that test, even though it can definitely get over 20,000. I have done it. I've also got the 4080 16 gigabyte getting 13,977, and the 4080 12 gigabyte getting 10,794, which actually does beat the 3090 Ti, which got 10,709. So the one test here where the 4080 12 gigabyte did win out against the 3090 Ti. So let me know your thoughts on the 4080 12 gigabyte, or I should say the future RTX 4070. Would you be impressed if they rebrand this as an RTX 4070, keep the 12 gigabytes, drop the price down to, like, let's say $699, and it's a competitor to the 30, like it's basically a 3090 Ti with half the VRAM. What do you think about that? Would you think that was a good deal, or would you try to maybe source a brand new 3090 Ti instead, get the 24 gigs of RAM? You know, all things to consider there. But you do get DLSS 3 with the 4080 12 gigabytes, so that is another considering factor where some people might want to be able to utilize, so definitely worth considering. Lots of different aspects to this, but that's also probably part of the reason why DLSS 3 is on this 4000 series as sort of like a paywall type of thing. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Look forward to hearing what you guys think about it. Last up, before we get out of here, Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection on PC got a patch. Overall, a very solid port. The performance is fantastic. Flawless PC performance, which I covered in my PC port report. The only really big glaring issues were some things like not having an exclusive full screen mode. The HDR didn't work unless you had it enabled in Windows, which is like not the end of the world. That's a lot of games are like that, but most of them usually will still have HDR in the menus, and it'll just be grayed out until you turn it on in Windows. But yeah, they add basically in this patch, as you'll see here in the patch notes, so they've added in some general stability and performance improvements, and the biggest one, honestly, for me, is updating the mouse control to use raw input data. I honestly refunded this game because it didn't have mouse raw input data. Now I'll buy it again, and I'll probably try to find it on an offer or something, because I really just couldn't handle the aiming on mouse and keyboard the way that it was, where I thought it was just mouse acceleration, but it turned out to actually be tied to your frame rate. So if you had a frame rate that was going all over the place from like 100 to 150 FPS and anywhere in between, you were going to feel that in your mouse sensitivity, so it would never be consistent, which was just terrible. So glad to see that they got sorted out. They also removed frame rate dependency for the mouse camera sensitivity, so that's basically tied in with the raw mouse input. That could have all been one thing, honestly. They updated the HDR option, as I was saying, to be grayed out now, instead of having it hidden when HDR is not enabled within Windows, and they made some improvements to motion blur visibility. They also added a couple notes in here that motion blur's effectiveness decreases at higher frame rates, and that they are investigating a solution for users with older CPUs that do not meet the necessary levels of AVX support. So stay tuned for more information on that. So that's all we got in the first patch. A good first patch, some things that just needed to be addressed right away, simple things that honestly should have never even made it into the game, like not having raw mouse input. Don't know what they were thinking with that one. Also, even though it was in the system requirements that you required AVX support for the CPU, it's nice that they are addressing that and saying they're looking into making it available for some older CPUs. As there were people on like i5 3570Ks and 3770Ks, older CPUs by today's standards. Honestly, these people need to get out there. People want to give me shit for my 9900K that I need to upgrade. They need to upgrade the 3570Ks and their older CPUs that don't even have AVX support. So hopefully they can get that sorted out at Iron Galaxy for the Uncharted PC collection. But otherwise, the port quality was excellent. Performance, phenomenal. And now that they fixed the mouse input data, it pretty much makes it a 10 out of 10 port, in my opinion. Maybe a 9.5 out of 10, because it still doesn't have an exclusive full screen mode, which I do think is silly. But it's not a deal breaker for me, like not having the raw mouse input. So there it is. Hope you guys all have a fantastic day. Look forward to talking with you guys and hearing your thoughts on all of today's stories down in the comments below. Don't forget to leave a like, and have a fantastic weekend. Peace.